Well, let's jump into the Eastern Conference. And I was supposed to do this before we jumped into our predictions, but I will do it now. We have counted up our totals to see who has done the best so far. This is our third year of predictions. So we went back to the 2016 predictions. The leader in the clubhouse, how the point totals worked was if you got a team that was in the playoffs right, you got 1 point. And if you got the seed and the team right, then you got 2 points. So it ended up being the leader after 2016 was Ricky. He got 17 points. Dave got 15. I got 14. Then last year, Dave got 18 points. I got 15. Ricky got 13. And that totals up to Dave being the leader so far over the past 2 years. 33 points. Ricky got 30. I got 29. So far, we were all right. We missed like 1 or 2 teams for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then we typically got like 2 right with the seed.
The thing I like about this is we're all fairly close. It's not like our NFL picks where it's like I'm up by 8 games on Mark or up by 10 games on Brandon. We're all fairly close.
But also that's week-to-week predictions, and it's easier to get those right than 82 games worth. But let's jump into our Eastern Conference. Ricky, give us your 1 through 8.
Well, I will start off at number 1, the team that should have went to the NBA Finals last year, the Boston Celtics. Then the number 2 seed, the Toronto Raptors, will be back with Kawhi. I'd say they'll be back. They were the 1 seed last year without him. Then the 76ers will be at the 3rd seed. Pacers moving up to number 4. The Heat with Jimmy Butler, without Jimmy Butler, doesn't matter. They'll still be at 5. Then at 6, the Milwaukee Bucks. Then the Pistons with Dwayne Casey will sneak right in at 7. And then probably the team I'm lowest on, and I almost moved them up, but I did not, the Washington Wizards at 8.
How close were you to put Bulls in the playoffs?
Not close at all. No, This team is not going to be a play. This is not like the Rondo
Zach LaVine,
Bulls.
Jabari Parker, Lowry Markkanen,
Injuries for the first 2.
Wendell.
I was just wondering.
No.
Give us your 1 through 8, Dave.
Number 1, I've got the Boston Celtics.
Boston.
Not hard to miss that one. 2, I do have the 76ers. 3, the Raptors. 4, the Wizards, who I'm irrationally high on every year, so just move on with your life. 5, I've got the Pacers. 6, I have the Pistons. 7, the Bucks. And 8, the Heat.
What makes you irrationally high on the Wizards?
They should be better than they are. John Wall and Bradley Beal are fantastic players. I know injuries play a factor in this.
Yeah.
Otto Porter is playing incredibly efficiently, and he did step up last year while John was out. The problem is that when John came back, he fell back into his role, and I'm not quite sure if he knows how to, enforce the ball in his hands enough, to get more playing time or more touches, I should say.
Yeah, and one thing too, Wall was injured last year, so if he was fully healthy, they most likely are 6 seed at worst. Yeah. So it's not crazy.
And then you add in Dwight Howard, which is just going to be fantastic for that locker room.
We'll talk more about the Wizards later.
Yep.
Let's give my 1 through 8. I was so close to putting the Raptors at 1. I'm going to be honest. I think this team got better. I think Nick Nurse is going to be a better head coach for them. I just was if they finish 1, then I have to give them Coach of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, can I really give them Coach of the Year if I don't think they're the best team in the East? So at 1, I have the Celtics. At 2, I have the Raptors. At 3, I have the Pacers. At 4, I have the 76ers. At 5, I have the Washington Wizards. I don't think you're irrationally high on the Wizards. At 6, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. At 7, I have the Detroit Pistons. Last time I picked the Pistons, I put them at 3, and that was a giant
we have
fuck up.
a problem with the Pistons as well.
Oh, do I really want to put the Pistons in there? I don't know what other team.
6. I
don't even know what other team would be in there. And then at 8, I have the Miami Heat with or without Jimmy Butler. Because you have such a great head coach, and there's no stars in that team, but they're all really good players. They're like the Magic done right. They have 10 starters, but they're
the
all
Magic
coached
with
well.
a point guard.
Yeah, and coached well. But those are our Eastern Conference playoff predictions, and let's jump into. We started last time with the West because with how close it was, the teams that missed out.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're really missing any teams. You could sub some teams in there, but there's no team that I think is a glaring omission from the playoffs.
Let's be honest. The Pistons missed out last year. They were 9, and the only reason we're probably putting them in is, yes, they got Dwayne Casey as their head coach, which isn't up, but also the Cavs are probably going to fall hard this year.
What I was going to talk about. The king is now gone. After 15 years of being
so we get
in
a new
the
King of the
Eastern
East
Conference.
segment.
No, they're
awesome.
King of the North. Kawhi Leonard, the King of the North.
Does he? I wonder who's going to be sitting at the table. I think it might be Kyrie, though.
That's what I was going to ask, though, because I don't know what the hell the table is or any of this stuff. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't care. I don't care. No, I really don't care. I don't give a shit at all.
Game of Zones.
Great. I don't care.
That's what
I don't care.
Game of Zones.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay.
But what I do want to ask, though,
head of the playoff table.
After 15 years, LeBron's finally gone out of the East. Which team do you think can withstand the most success over the next 5 years, which team will be, the kings of the North or whatever that is, or the kings of the East? Which team do you think has the best chance to sustain success over the next 5 years?
We have them at the 1 seed, Boston. They have the coach. They have the young talent. Kyrie's already said officially that he's planning on re-signing, so he's going to stay.
We'll see.
He's not a guy who would say something then mean something else.
Exactly.
People don't just lie on the internet.
This time, this team, if all the pieces like Kyrie, Brad Stevens is there, the young talent, this team is set up for, to me, the greatest success with the 76ers being right behind them.
Yeah, Jake's going to hate me, but I have to agree. The Celtics are the team. You look at the contract stuff, Gordon Hayward's locked down long term. You get a couple more years out of Al Horford at the end of his prime, and the young talent on the team. I think the big question on the long term is actually what is Terry Rozier's value contract wise, and is it going to be worth it to pay to keep him around? If you can lock in Kyrie, I think you let him walk, and you probably don't lose that much sleep over it, but we'll see. We'll see where they go, and we'll see what happens to their big man depth, because obviously they drafted the sleepy boy this year.
Robert
Williams. And, if he can be serviceable, awesome.
I look at the Celtics, and I know all the pieces are there.
Yeah.
I understand that Kyrie says he wants to resign. Gordon Hayward's coming back, and he looks good.
Yeah.
We obviously see Jason Tatum explode into a superstar. Some could argue he's probably the most valuable player on that team, at least when it comes to trade value. I think
trade
he might.
Value, sure.
I think he might get the most, because again of his potential, of his already built. Jaylen Brown is potential defensive player of the year. At some point in his career.
It's a great
Al
slashing
Horford, great veteran. But I look at the Celtics and I just question their health, because Kyrie, although he's a phenomenal player, has never been healthy throughout his career. He didn't even start his career healthy. He didn't come into the league healthy. We look at Gordon Hayward. I know that's a freak injury, but again, is that something that's going to linger? Is that something that's prone to happening again?
Anytime you're jumping up, you're going to have that slight second of thought, oh.
Al Horford is old. Could he possibly get injured? And we never know what's going to happen with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Hopefully nothing ever does.
Yeah.
And at some point they're going to lose that depth. You talk about Terry Rozier. You talk about Marcus Smart, who did re-sign, but is that going to put them into a cap hell when they do need to sign Tatum, when they need to sign Brown, when they need to sign Kyrie at the end of the season, when they possibly try to go out and get a new star? I think that they're going to have possibly a big three consistently in place.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's hard not to say that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be the kings of the East. At least, maybe not for the first 2 years, but when we look at year 3, 4, and 5 of the next 5 years, I think the 76ers definitely have a chance to be there, because I know some people are going to say, well, you just brought up health, Sean, and let's look at Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. But I just think talent-wise, we look at their young talent. I know Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward and Al Horford all in their primes, but Ben Simmons is an unstoppable force. Joel Embiid is a two-way monster, and I was massively high on Markelle Fultz coming into that draft in 2017, and so far, I understand that he was injured and he didn't have a great first year, but so far what I've seen out of him has been phenomenal. The kid
Dario's no slouch.
Yeah, and Dario's great too, and they still have the ability to add another star as well. With all the draft picks that they do have, this team can get better, and I think by year 3 of this, the 76ers definitely have a chance. I don't know if it will be for sure, but I don't think we can slight them that much by saying Boston for sure.
I am saying another reason why I'm saying Boston for sure, and I'm going to do a little bit of research to catch myself here. Danny Ainge, I don't even find out. Going back to 2014, the draft picks, that the first round picks that the Celtics have had, I would say hit on Marcus Smart, hit on Rozier, hit on Brown, hit on Tatum. Williams, we don't know. They just drafted him. If you look at this team's future
real quick,
draft
I don't think that's
picks,
a hit on Marcus Smart at 6. He's been phenomenal. But
Look at the guys taken behind him.
I mean, he's after some of the other guys he could have taken there. It was a good pick for them.
Well, you had Julius Randle, you had Dario Saric, Levine, Warren, Nurkic. That's probably about it. Gary Harris too.
Yeah,
but all those guys were not going to be top 6 picks. So you're right.
But the thing I look at with this team is,
Jokic,
yes, they convey in different ways. Like the Clipper pick, if the Clippers are between 15 and 30, so in the playoffs this year, the Celtics get that pick. If not, they can get it 2020. 2020 if it's not settled. They can get Memphis's pick either this year, next year, or 2021. And this year for sure, they're going to get the Kings pick because it's going to be more favorable
they're not.
than the...
Because the Kings are going to be the worst team in the league, and it's going to go number 1, and the Sixers are going to get the pick.
So 2 through... I'm not expecting the Kings to be the number 1 pick. If they do,
Why
the
not?
Kings do keep
Are they
it.
not a bottom 3 team? Then they have a 1/3 chance of going to the 76ers.
No, I know. I'm just... my prediction would not be the Kings to get that number 1
The odds
pick.
are technically in the favor of going to Celtics.
I'm thinking
Because
that...
1/3, 2/3.
That's what I'm saying.
I would say that the Celtics are going to get their own this year, get their own pick, the Kings pick. Next year, get the Clipper pick, and then either next year or the year after, get Memphis's pick.
Do they keep those picks though?
Doesn't matter. Like Danny Ainge,
Anthony Davis.
No.
Just say it out loud. Just say the name.
No, I'm not. They could Anthony.
They
Davis.
offered 17 first-round picks for Anthony Davis. They walked away.
They
Like,
could
we're not
either
coming to this table.
use that ammo
Calm down.
to trade for a veteran, or like I said, I just went back 4 years. Danny Ainge has proven, hey, I know how to draft in the first round, and this is a team that, if they draft well, could help themselves and get over injuries from their older play. Like you mentioned, Al Horford. All right, I'll find a replacement via the draft, and then kind of coach that guy up. Maybe that's what they're hoping Robert Williams is be. I don't think he will be.
No.
But
Different role.
But depending on where the picks are, I like Boston way more than I like the 76ers in the future.
But also, can we say that the 76ers have been missing with their draft picks? Because, I mean, arguably they took the best player in 2014 in Joel Embiid. I mean, yes, they were gifted to him because Wiggins and Parker went 1-2. And then you look at Ben Simmons, they had the first choice, and same with Markelle Fultz. But they also made the trade for Dario, and I know that was Sam Hinkie and it wasn't Elton Brand now.
TCP?
But I look at it and I think, Boston has obviously made some phenomenal moves, but I don't think that means the 76ers are, prone to not making great moves. They have the ability to make those same moves.
The biggest thing in the
and
right
same
now,
picks as well.
The biggest thing in the right now that separates them is coaching. Boston has the way better coach.
I just think that the better player is going to be on the 76ers, and potentially the better 2 players are going to be on the 76ers. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I know what Kyrie Irving can do, and I know how amazingly talented he is. We don't know Jalen Tatum's upside. We don't know Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. We don't know where they're going to be in 3 years, 4 years when they're in their primes. And we don't know where Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz. Like, I look at the Sixers side, and I see Ben Simmons being a defensive and offensive player. Like, he can do everything. Like, he literally can do everything. Joel Embiid's already there at such a young age. So I just think that, like, those 2 players can be better than anyone on the Celtics roster.
And my thing, too, with Tatum and Brown, I think they could be absolute studs on the Celtics teams, but also on any other team. I think those guys have just talent. They're phenomenal. We were wrong about Brown. We were, I think we were right about Tatum. We were a little bit low on our mock drafts, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't have gone third.
Right.
But the thing with that is they are not expected to be the guys. They're not expected to be stars because they're expected to fit into the role. And arguably, who's more valuable than them? Horford, possibly Hayward. We'll see what his role is.
Yeah.
And Kyrie. Like, those guys are going to have more of a workload, more of a usage, and be expected to take those bigger shots. Not saying that Tatum will never be asked to or Brown will never be asked to, but we look at the Philadelphia 76ers, those guys are the team, and they are going to grow into stars. I think Tatum and Brown's potentials might be capped because they might not be asked to be stars. And not saying that they don't have the potential to be that, but they might be groomed into certain roles. And obviously they were asked to do bigger roles and flourish last year. But I think that, again, Simmons and Embiid, they're not going to hold them back. Yeah. They're going to say, do what you need to do, become stars, grow. And I think that the Celtics, again, they're going to be like, all right, well, we need to get all of our players in. And I think, when injuries start to happen, things start to crumble, you're going to have those 3 guys in Philadelphia, Simmons, Embiid, and Fultz. I think that might be a stronger and more consistent big 3 than the Celtics. Things can change. Stars can be added. Anything could happen. Celtics have a better coach. Arguably a better front office. But we'll see.
I'm going to make this analogy, and it's the last thing I'll do. When it's all said and done, I think we will look back on this Celtics 76ers thing as the Celtics are or were to the 76ers what the Warriors were to the KD Russ Thunder. Arguably, the Thunder had the 2 better players, but the better coach team with the more overall better players won in series and were the better team.
I think that's a fine analogy, yeah. Let's move away from that discussion, though, and go to at least the team that is second for Ricky and I and third for Dave, the Raptors. Are we underrating them a bit because they did get better, arguably coaching-wise and talent-wise, but why do they go from 1 to 3 in your mind, and why do they go 1 to 2 in your mind?
1 to 2 in my mind is I think the Celtics are going to be better, and I think that Dwayne Casey would have been a better coach for this team than Nick Nurse.
Why?
I liked Dwayne Casey. I always felt like he was doing the job, and that's why he won Coach of the Year last year, even though it should have been Brad Stevens. I was baffled and confused when they fired him last year because it's like, what do you want this guy to do? It's not his fault that the players choke in the playoffs and mainly choke against LeBron. Let's see what Dwayne Casey could have done with this team without LeBron. But they did add Kawhi Leonard. So, I mean, there was me. I flipped a coin, basically, in my head, and I went with the Celtics. I think they're going to be the better overall team.
Dave, why do you have them falling to 3?
I'm falling to 3 because I think that the 76ers, even though they were fluky in the way that they got to their seed last year with that ridiculous winning streak at the end of the year, are going to be the better team. I just think that you're going to see more minutes out of these guys. One of the things that I saw in a lot of interviews this offseason and preseason has been the players talk about how much more time they're going to play. Like, oh, we only played 30 minutes, 29 minutes last year. Like, look for us to be 34, 35 range, getting more time out there, more minutes, more meaningful minutes. And I think that, well, the Raptors have incredible depth, which should mean that they're going to be the better team in the regular season. I think the 76ers are going to be like total wild card out there again and just surprise people with their consistency, with their level of dominance.
But, and this isn't arguably, the Raptors do have the best player compared to the 76ers and the Raptors, and Kawhi Leonard.
Yep.
And obviously we have to see how he comes back from his injury.
Nicely done.
But I think this team, the Raptors, he's going to fit well into that role. It's not a drastic role that he's changing out of.
No.
This team's going to be stupidly good defensively. And Kawhi is now going to have to prove in a contract year for himself that he is worth the money, that he's back and ready to play, and that he can be a team guy again. And if he goes out and proves that, I think there could be a chance. I didn't put them at 1 because, again, I was just hesitant with all the talent Boston has to put them at 1, but I think they have the ability to be at 1 because they are just a well-rounded, put-together team, and they have arguably the best player in the East.
My concern is we talk about the excellence of depth on their team. The one thing that I keep going back to is what happens if they don't continue to grow like we all expect them to. Like Pascal Siakam is amazingly long and agile and has a decent mid-range shot, but what if he doesn't grow? What if he can't develop that shot anymore? Maybe last year was going to be his best year for a little bit. Maybe he hits a struggle in a wall and he can't grow past there. What if, some of these guys like OG Anunoby, who we love coming out of college, we think he can do so much more than be this 3-and-D player that he already excels in a role of. Like, what if there's more struggles on this team than out there? Danny Green's obviously been getting worse and worse every year for the last 3 years now. Like, do you see him maintain that role? Do you think that they're going to end up having to move him to the bench and put, Serge back in and move OG to the 2? Like, there's a lot of questions on this team, and we don't like to talk about regression. Yeah. For the obvious reason of, like, nobody wants to say you're going to get worse. But I look at guys and I go, that was probably, like, one of your better years. I don't think you're going to be quite as good this year.
That's fine if you think everyone else is going to regress, because I think it's 100% possible. Serge Ibaka had a phenomenal year. He could even regress. Valanciunas can regress. Danny Green seems to be regressing. Kyle Lowry has been getting worse.
Worse, but at the same time weirdly efficient, and that's one of those things where it's like he might be fitting into a better role for his age.
My thing is just, while those players might regress, your number 1 got so much better.
It's true.
DeRozan's a phenomenal player, but he's not the two-way monster that Kawhi is, and Kawhi arguably is a better scorer than DeMar DeRozan. I know DeMar DeRozan is fantastic in the mid-range. He's unstoppable, but Kawhi has so many weapons. He's such a great shooter from the outside. He can drive. He can dish the ball out. He can take over games. We saw him in that Memphis series. I think it was not last year, 2 years ago. He took over those games and won those for San Antonio. I think he can do that in the Eastern Conference. I think that Kawhi will be asked a lot of in Toronto. That's why they paid the price they did for him. But I think he's going to prove that he was worth that price. And I think it's so hard to say, what if they regress? Because you're still going to have such an improvement at your number 1 spot in DeMar DeRozan, in Kawhi Leonard, that it's not going to end up mattering.
For me, I look at, and like, I don't disagree with you. The thing that I look at is, if we get the Kawhi Leonard that we got 2 years ago, yes. But I
think
know
he's
it was
gonna grow
only
from 2 years ago.
I know it was only 9 games last year. I know the whole situation was a shit show. I know he had about 10 less minutes average per game in those 9 games than he did when he was playing full time. Are you then expecting him just to come off of this injury and be perfectly okay? Or do you expect there to be a little bit of rust at the beginning of this Raptor season for Kawhi? Because I'm not expecting like rust for the entire season.
Yeah, no, I understand that the rust might be there, but also let's look at what he was doing, near the end of when he was playing, and he's, he was up and down, but I just think that he will be able to sustain it a little bit because we look at his, last, I think it was 5 games. Last 5 games, 28 minutes, 54% from the field, 30% from 3. Obviously, that's going to get a little bit better when his legs come under him. 20 points per game, 4 boards, 3 assists, 2.6 steals, a block a game. Like, he was great at the end of those 5 games. So 5 out of the 4 games, he was great, and he didn't have the legs underneath him. So I think that he can, after working out with the Raptors, playing preseason, I think he's going to have those legs underneath him, and he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be. I think we're going to see a better Kawhi Leonard than we've ever seen.
No, in my mind, it's entirely possible that the Raptors walk out as the best regular season team. I just feel like putting them there without knowing Kawhi's situation does a discredit to what I've seen the Celtics and 76ers do this offseason and their potential growth, because the word potential has been said like 50 times on the show.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the
Dave
Celtics.
buying in on the Markelle Fultz hype.
I was fucking leading the train last year, and everybody else is saying the man's got the yips and can't do this and he'll never shoot. What happens if Markelle Fultz never gets a shot? Like, it doesn't fucking matter because he's going to get one. It doesn't. Like, he's going to be fine.
You should have seen the reaction when Fultz hit that 3 in the
three.
preseason. Jake was going insane. Like, that dude was freaking out, and I don't blame him. Like, it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, I look at those two teams, and I think that because of their potential, they can overcome the known answer of the Raptors have the best depth, they have the best player in the East. Everything points to them being the best team in the East. But I think the potential unknowns in the Celtics being with a healthy Hayward and Kyrie this year, and the 76ers getting Markelle Fultz plus some of these other additions in this offseason, like there is a good chance that those teams can fight for those roles. But in my heart of hearts, I might know where things go, and it might not line up with my rankings.
A healthy Kyrie is such a loaded statement, though, because it's never happened. But we keep talking about the 76ers, and we never really dived into them. I have them at 4. Ricky, you have them at 3. Dave, you have them at 2.
Yep.
I just look at the 76ers, and I don't think they're the 4th best team in the East. I think they're probably arguably 2 or 3, depending on where you want to put the Raptors.
You think the Pacers are going to go off this year?
Well, I think the Pacers are going to be massively consistent, and I think with the 76ers, yes, you're going to have Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, a lot of guys are returning to this team, but for my awards, something needs to happen for them to falter, and that is a minor injury to Joel Embiid. So that's why I have the 76ers falling off, because I think that this is, again, we don't know what the hell is going to happen, so I think that just an injury is going to happen. Not a debilitating one where they're going to fall out of the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be something where they can consistently put wins together back to back to back. When they're fully healthy, I think they'll be able to do that. And I don't think they're going to go on a 15-game win streak like they were last year. I still think they're a 50-win team this year, but I don't think they're going to have enough health to get over that hump to become the 2nd seed. I don't think it's this year for the 76ers to be a top 3 seed in the East. I could be 100% wrong, too.
And I know why the answer to this question. I'm just going to throw it out there anyways because I find it funny. It's not really a question. It's a statement. I find it funny that 2 teams, one in the West, one in the East, that went on ridiculous win streaks, and it helped their playoff standings. In the West, we all had that team fall out of the playoffs. I get that the West is more competitive, and the team in the East is more talented than the 76ers, but Blazers, they went on a win streak. They're going to fall off. The 76ers, it's like they went on a win streak. We expect them to get better.
But that's because they're also much younger than...
And I know that the
Trailblazers
76ers have, I'm going to say, better long-term players than Dame and CJ. Because Dame and CJ, we kind of know what we're going to get. Where Embiid, Ben Simmons, Fultz, they're still growing as young NBA players. Young NBA stars, I'd even say.
I think Dame's 29, CJ's 26, Embiid's
they're in the
24, and Simmons just turned 20, 21, right? Like, I mean, he's super young. Those guys are so young and they balled out. I think they're going to continue to ball out. And it's not that Portland won't ball out. I just don't think there's depth on that team where 76ers have that depth. They have Rocco. They have JJ. They have Fultz. They have Dario. They have Jonah Bolden, who could be a complete mystery box. They have Amir Johnson, as much as Jake hates that. Like, they have veterans that can also help this team as well, and they're gonna be able to make moves with the draft picks they have accumulated.
Yeah.
So I think Philadelphia at least is going to be able to stay top 4. And I'm probably gonna be wrong about the seed where I put them, but when you're coming into these predictions, you have to just be like, I think you have to like succeed that you're going to be wrong about 2 of them.
Yeah.
Because anything could happen with the playoffs.
That's the thing. Injuries happen throughout the year to random guys, random teams. Like, there's no way to know for sure. But I just look at that talent and the depth they've got and go,
oh, they're great.
Holy shit. Like, we talk about the big addition at the end of last year was Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli. Like, their shooting won them games, period. You can't take anything away from that. But at the same time, it's why they lost games in the playoffs against the Celtics series. Like, they didn't have anyone defensively to match up with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum because they've got a bunch of guys out there who are just good at they're good shooters. Like, nothing away from them. But now they're coming back, and they went in the draft. They went after Zaire Smith. That's a guy who can defend 2 through 5. Mm-hmm. He can go up against anybody. He's physically strong. Yes, I know he's now got the 76ers curse and may not play this year because he has an injury. But maybe we get lucky and we get to see him, by the All-Star break, and he can be a solid contributor day 1. I just think that this team, people don't give Dario enough credit for what he did in the playoffs last year. He put up like 18, 7, and like 3.5. I know defensively he can be bad at times, but still, like, this is a team who has answers. They added Wilson Chandler this offseason, so you're getting that wing depth back as well. I look at them and I go, like, 1 through 10, I don't see a lot of teams who can keep up with them.
I also think they're the only team that I could probably name all the players on their roster, like off the top of my head, because all of them have been contributors before. Like, I think you got Furkan, TJ, Wilson Chandler, Jonah Bolden, Joel Embiid, Dario, Markelle Fultz. Did I say TJ?
You did, but
Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Rocco. It's 10. I can't think of the other ones. I'm probably missing some big ones. Amir Johnson.
Jared Bayless, who can forget him? He's
Jared
injured
Bayless.
again, thank God.
That's a bad one.
Sorry, I shouldn't cheer for that.
But yeah, no, I can name 11 of the 14 just off the top of my head. You
JJ
can't
literally
do that
didn't miss
often.
a shot last night. Or was it last night and the night before? Like, he went 10 for 10. Like, it just... when you have incredible shooting, and then fucking Landry Shamet coming off the bench, who was above 40% for every his 2 years in college. 2-year player in college, right?
3 year.
Multiple years, always above 40% in shooting from behind the arc, and he comes in and he does the same thing in the NBA. Like, this is a team with scary depth at the guard position. I just look forward to watching them play, watching them grow.
I will say, I think it was our first mock draft. I think it was. I called him the steal of draft. In the last 2 years, he was over 30%, 40% from 3, 43 and 44 last year.
That's disgusting.
My biggest question with this team has nothing to do with the regular season. Like, I think they're going to be either the 2 or the 3 in the East. My question is, what happens when you get to the playoffs? Like, you'll probably beat, like in mine with the Bucks. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what I have, but it's when you go up against the Celtics. If you go up against the Raptors in a second round, are you going to be able to get past them? And for me, my 2 cents into it, like my personal feelings, do they have the coaching to get past either the Raptors or the Celtics?
I think it's a valid question, but I also think we're expecting too much from this team. I'll be honest with you. This team is talented. This team has a ton of depth, but their 2 best players are so young. And we look at the Raptors, we look at the Celtics. These guys have such motivation to win a finals because it might be like one of their last chance in their primes to do it. Like, I'm not saying Kawhi because, I mean, he's still very young, but Kawhi also is on a contract year and trying to prove that he can do this outside of San Antonio. We look at Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving wants to be taken seriously as a star who can get away from that LeBron James light and shadow and also, prove that he can be healthy. We look at Gordon Hayward. He wants to prove that contract. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are still finding their way in the NBA. They're still fantastic players, and they had a goal last year. It was to get to 50 wins. They did it. Last year was a successful year.
Fun.
Yeah, last year was a successful year, and we looked down on the way that they, fell in the Eastern Conference to Brett Brown.
Yeah.
Brett Brown was also a first-year head coach in the postseason.
I get that.
I think we just had too high of expectations for the 76ers.
But there's a reason why.
But what?
The reason why is, you mentioned Kyrie, you mentioned Gordon Hayward, but the main reason why we have so much high standards for this team is you look at the Celtics last year, they didn't have Kyrie or Gordon Hayward. They had young guys, and they arguably were one game 7 away from the NBA Finals. Like, they should, I know the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but they should have been, I believe they should have won that game 7 and been in the finals last year.
Their best player was still Al Horford, though. Like, you had Al Horford the whole year.
There are differences, but I mean, the two main players for that Celtic team, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, were not there. And that, to me, is why I said it when we did a segment with Jake about the 76ers and we took a deep dive into them.
Yep.
I think Brett Brown is the coach where he's going to be the one to coach these guys up, develop them, but he's not going to be the one to bring them to the promised land. He will be fired or leave, probably be fired. And they will hire that Brad Stevens-esque coach to, all right, this is the guy who's going to bring this talent to the promised land.
A Steve Currian coach.
Yes.
Look.
I still think that's a load of shit, by the way. I'm changing to make sure the camera comes out. I still think that's a load of shit take.
And that again, fair, because we haven't seen the best out of Brett Brown. What we've seen is a young head coach make some mistakes in the playoffs. But I agree with Sean as far as this team had zero expectations in the playoffs. It was great that they got there, and I don't think the concern should be, have we ever seen a team this young do anything in the playoffs? Like, have we ever seen a team with the average age of, 24 do anything in the playoffs? Like, no championship team has ever been that young. No team should have those expectations when you look at the playoffs. So I think that the fact that they got there, the fact that Brett Brown got some experience in different situations, he went up against a tough Miami team who defensively could lock them down, who had extreme amounts of veteran leadership on that team, and one of the, again, Spoelstra, another pedigreed head coach, and then he goes against the Celtics where he finds, this is something I need to figure out, how do I address this, and he did the thing that I didn't expect him to, which was, I'm looking at that team, what did you have success with? It was lineups with TJ McConnell in them, who was struggling, Ben Simmons, and instead he leaned in and was like, Ben's going to play through these struggles. Yeah. He trusts in his young guys, and I think that'll be rewarded over time.
And also with, we always look at, Steve Kerr came in and took him to the playoffs right away. But also, that team wasn't as young as the 76ers team was. Steph was a 5-year player when that happens?
But
Clay was a 3-year player?
When that happens for the Sixers, it'll be 3 years down the line. No, I understand,
but you're saying that they took it into that year. I understand Steve Kerr was a rookie head coach, but his players weren't. Ben Simmons was a rookie last year. They weren't running with rookies out there. I think that this team, again, just needs the time to grow. They need the time to falter, and they shouldn't have as much pressure as they do to be a team that's already winning in the Eastern Conference. People might think that, again, you look at them at 4 in my playoff prediction and be like, oh, that's a failure. Not really, because this team, right now, still probably shouldn't be in the playoffs with the way that they, were projected.
I say,
this was one of the worst teams, 3 years ago.
Look at the Suns and the Kings, teams who were up there at the top of the draft boards with them, and guess where they're still at? The worst teams in the league, and now we're being 50-team win. I don't know. Are they disappointing us in the playoffs? No. Be happy for your team. You're doing the right thing in the right timeline. Just let them grow.
Brett's gonna get 5 years. That was the last year was the first year. And then now he's got 4 more years to at least take them to an NBA Finals. And not win it, but just take them there.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely within enough time to get enough playoff experience for both the players
make moves still.
And the coaches. If it doesn't happen then sure, he can get fired. Yeah. But I think it's sometime he's going to get there.
How many chances did they give until they pulled the trigger Nick Nurse is our guy?
Yeah, and you were shocked by that. Yeah, because of the way that they're performing. The 76ers are so fucking young. DeMar DeRozan's 33 years old. Kyrie, no, sorry.
No, he's not.
DeRozan's 29. Kyle Lowry's 33.
The difference, though, in those two situations is the Raptors ran into the best player that we've seen since Michael Jordan, whereas the 76ers ran into a team last year that
they should have been the best player since Michael Jordan. That's what you've been saying this whole
they should have. But as a Sixer fan, I would be sitting there going they have the better coach, but there's come on, Joe, come on, Ben, you should be able to beat JT and Jaylen Brown. But that's what I would.
Sixers fan, you're holy shit, we're in the playoffs.
No, but that's what I would be looking at.
No playoff game.
Do you think Al Horford's a bum off the street?
No,
he was their best player. bar none, not even close.
I'm not saying like he's a bad player. I'm just saying when I would look at it from a fandom, I wouldn't be looking at Hal Horford above
Why not?
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I
Because
think-
to me, Dave, I take bigs unless it's like Draymond Green, and I kind of put them to the side in this NBA.
What?
And that's what I've done the whole time.
Hold on,
I look
hold
at
on,
guards
hold
and
on.
wings the most.
Time out.
What?
You are putting away all bigs besides Draymond Green.
I mean, usually he's the one I talk about the
6'7"
most.
Draymond Green.
You ever hear about Anthony Davis?
No, I know. But
You ever hear
usually
him?
we don't talk about the
You ever hear
Pelicans
Joel
that much.
Embiid, the guy on the team that you're talking about that
No,
should be
I'm
stepping
talking
up?
about him right now.
No,
I
but you're saying
mentioned
you
Joel
put away
Embiid.
all those
I said
guys.
usually.
And you look at Draymond Green.
I'm
as
saying usually I do.
That
in
is
the
the
past.
model for a big in the NBA.
No,
is
6'7"
Draymond
guy.
No,
Green.
you're putting words in my mouth. I just said usually Draymond Green is the guy I talk about the most. That's
Why?
what I'm saying. I'm just gonna like him.
Find better.
I mean, go back in our tape in our history. I've probably, out of all the big men, I've probably
God.
talked about Draymond Green the most.
I think it's funny that you keep calling
don't have the
Draymond
time
Green a
for
big
that.
man.
I mean, he plays the 4.
Yeah, I know, but he's like 6'7".
He's a small big, but he's still a big.
I think that the 76ers have time to grow, and I think that people should not look at them at being a 4 seed with most likely 50
Yeah.
wins as a negative, at least in
I
my
say-
things. And I think this team still has time to grow.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to agree. Where's Jake's? I wasn't here for the Jake week, so like, was Jake's take on them playoff, world champions?
No,
World
they're
champions?
finals.
Okay,
That's what he said.
There we go. So we've got a true 76ers fan right there, just drinking the Kool-Aid.
He also thinks Drew Brees is the best quarterback of all time because he's a Saints fan. He also thinks the Yankees are going to beat the Red Sox when they just got.
There's a chance. They have a better chance than the Braves.
That's true.
Wow, that's
Baseball. But homers are going to drink homer juice. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone outside of Philadelphia thinks that they have a shot at going to the finals. Like maybe like a 5% shot, but I don't think it's going to happen. Dave, what?
don't look at my predictions.
We'll get to it. All right. Anyways, I'm glad you have it though. 'Cause, again, we'll talk about it. Again, 76ers are a young team. We'll see what happens with them. Final thoughts on the East because obviously we talked a little bit about the Wizards. They add Dwight Howard. We see the Pacers. I have them at 3. A team that was great last year with the most improved player with Victor Oladipo. They add Doug McDermott. They add Tyreek Evans.
Yeah.
They have additions. We
They're
look at the
huge.
Bucks. They have a new head coach in Budenholzer. We look at the Pistons with Dwayne Casey and Blake Griffin being new full season additions.
Healthy Reggie Jackson.
Healthy Reggie Jackson. We look at the Heat. Obviously, they have Spoelstra and are in discussions with Jimmy Butler, but nothing really outside of the top 4 gets me crazy in my mind. Really, I don't think any team outside of the Celtics, Raptors, Pacers, and 76ers have a shot to win the East.
I'm going to say it just because we did it for the West and you guys can do it too. It'd be fun. Hornets are my dark horse in the East to make the playoffs. Like the one that I'm looking for that, they'll be out, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Hornets sneak in at the 8.
Do you think they're going to ride the whole season with Kemba and hope to re-sign him?
Yes.
Because, I'm still on the fence. I'm like, if they shoot the bet off the gates, I wonder.
I don't think it was because they want to get rid of Kemba. They
No,
want to
but
get rid of the
it's-
contracts.
Yeah. They're trying to do a full reset.
Ultimately, I don't think they get rid of Kemba. The team, though, that I have a dark horse for, and I think, Dave, you should bring up the dark horse that you mentioned before. I think that the dark horse could be Cleveland for me because I don't trust Orlando. I think that they do have a great player in Aaron Gordon, but I don't know. With the youth, Jonathan Isaac and Mo Bamba are going to be asked to do a lot. They don't have a point guard. I think, and Evan Fournier is great as well, but I don't think they have enough coaching, and there's a lot of turnover there that I don't trust them. Atlanta's too young. Chicago, I think, is too young, but they're talented. New York is a mess, especially with KP as the question mark on when he'll
He might not even
return.
play this year. Yeah.
And then the Cavs, I think they're the only team that with the youth that they have, but also a balance of Kevin Love and the veteran leadership they have. Outside of the poor coaching, I think they probably have the best chance.
I mean,
but
Tristan
I don't
Thompson
think
still Tristan Thompson thinks he's
world
still
champion,
the favorites in the
Tristan
East.
he's an idiot.
Until they lose it. They're the guys.
It's a good mindset to have.
Yeah, sure. Point for him, but he's also the guy who couldn't get on the court for part of last season because he just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that team. We'll see. They're gonna be an interesting team because Colin Sexton could be explosive, and we all know what Kevin Love could do when he's the only guy on a team. But now we got skinny Kevin Love. We'll see. I'm high, but
Say your dark horse.
I think for me it's the Nets.
There it is.
I'm the guy who
Brooklyn.
I talked up D'Angelo Russell a lot on this show. I'm a bit of a homer for him for no real reason. Just I like the guy.
You're not
like,
an Ohio State fan. You're
Nope.
not. Well, you're kind of a Laker
I wasn't
guy.
a Lakers fan.
You're
at
not
the
a Laker
time.
fan, but
I was a fan of Kobe. I mean, that's different. Everybody was. But I think that
Everybody was.
I know that's a lie. I'm just moving on. I think that D'Angelo Russell, like, we saw what it could do when he was healthy last year. The problem was he wasn't healthy the whole year. I think he can explode this year. I think this could be his breakout year, and he has a good chance to actually become an Eastern All-Star if things continue to grow the way I would hope for him. I like Karis LeVert a lot. I think he is in the vein of I can do a little bit of everything pretty well. He's going to be putting up like 14-5 and 3.5 next year with a steal. Like he is kind of that utility tool, and he's got a really good skill set. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is he's weirdly like their main. He was like the original piece when they started rebuilding this team. Really, good wing defender. Doesn't have an outside shot, but he's at least a serviceable player. Jared Allen, he got the fro. Like Spencer Dinwiddie, fro bro. I look at this team and I go, they've got a lot of young pieces. I'd love to see this be like the positive year one. I know that they've been, working towards this, and I think this could be it. I think this could be the year where you go, D'Lo is a star.
They are the Browns in my mind of the NBA. I'm rooting for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have a lot of young talent, but I don't think this is the year.
Okay.
Obviously Cleveland has had a fantastic defense this year. They have their piece in Baker Mayfield. I don't think Brooklyn has their piece yet, but D'Angelo might turn into that. But I think that they have young talent, but I don't think this is the year that they make the playoffs.
Also, one thing I was looking at, if the same thing happens in our predictions that happened last year, that Dave was right about 2 of the seeds, you were right about 1 of them, the teams to look at in the East are that the 76ers will be the 7th seed, and then the Heat will be the 8th because the one that you had was the one that Dave had. And then in the West, it'll be the Spurs at 3 and the Lakers at 6.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I was just looking at it. Was funny that Dave had one of his was like the one he had alone was in the top 4. The one that he had that matched with you was in the bottom 4.
Yeah,
in both the East and the West.
We both hit the Timberwolves dead on, which, again, young team. I don't think I think it was fair. Because, again, I
had him at 5.
Yeah.
I mean, with Spurs didn't have Kawhi, so I think that was a big thing that fell off of them.
Yep.
It's tough to predict the seeds because, again, anything can happen. So we'll figure out what happens. When it comes to May. I think
I don't know.
I think April,
Because June's the finals.
late April. I think
Yeah.
it starts. So we'll see when it comes to April who's right, who's wrong, but we will figure out.